In this video, I'm going to show you how to install a pocket door with the Johnson pocket door hardware into a space that's already been framed.
You need to find out how they're going to finish the floor. They said they're going with backer board and tile and thin set that will be about 1.25 inches. So the top of the door is going to get attached to this. So this goes in here. From the top here to the top of the door is 2.5 inches. If your door is 80 inches, and you've got about 2.5 inches of wheels and track, you want to be about 83 inches from here to your finished floor. The door is 28 inches, right there. So as you know, in door speak, that means it's 2 feet 4 inches. So that's why they call it 2-4. See where that says 2-4? So we're gonna cut this right here. But we're just cutting the wood, not cutting the track. Cut through the tracks and then just pry this off because it's with staples. Very simple. Do that on both sides. Moving right along. Now we got to cut the track to length. They even marked that for you. So that's a 2'4" door.
Remember that the entire length of the track should be twice the width of the door once you've cut it. Since we have a 28-inch door, we have a 56-inch long track.
Now Johnson recommends you hang this track using these convoluted things. These go in here, and then you attach these like that. I find that's very cumbersome, so I pre-drilled this in 4 places. I get it level. See, my header's already level. Before I screw that in, I'm gonna put these 1/4-inch shims because that'll give me the space I need between the top of my door and my finished floor. You can see I want to line up that wood part with the drywall. Drywall is going to go on top of this thing where my thumb is. We got this thing shimmed 1/4 inch. Screwed it in so it's level. The wood part goes where the door is going to open. The bare metal part is the actual pocket. So when the door is closed, it's going to be right here. When it goes into the pocket, it's going to go right here.
So now that you have your track cut to length and it's installed and it's level, put your wheel in and check the distance from the finished floor to the bottom of that bracket. And it should be your door plus about 1/2 inch. So if you have an 80-inch door, that distance should be 80 to 80.5. If it's less, that's fine because you can always trim your door and you can raise and lower this wheel a little bit. But if that distance is 81 or more, you're going to have too big a gap underneath the door.
Now we're going to put in the split jambs. That's what these are called. It's a metal encased piece of wood. And it's very simple. You've got 2 sets of 2. So one goes right against that wood part, and then the other set goes halfway between the wood part and the wall. It doesn't really matter. It's somewhere in here. That's a little bit long, so I'm just going to cut 1/4 inch off of this. You see how they have these holes there? I like to pre-drill these, and then you're going to screw them into this wood part. Make them short enough so they fit, but tall enough so you can screw them into there. And you've got these brackets that hold the split jamb together. Put the metal side of the split jamb facing the inside of the bracket. And the wood faces the outside because that's what you're going to attach your drywall to. And then they go together like that. This gets mounted to the floor. That part gets mounted to each side of the track. Put the split jamb on the floor. Up here, I just use 1.25 inches just to hold that in place. So I've got one in there. Once I've got it plumb in that direction and plumb in this direction, then what I'll do is just put one screw in the floor. See, it's got holes for a lot of screws. I'm just gonna put 1.25 inch screw in there. It doesn't even matter where. I don't want to secure this thing and worry about getting everything plumb and true and everything. I'm not going to straighten these out until I hang the door, and you'll see why that makes it so much easier. I'm going to split this distance. It doesn't have to be exact. And we're going to put the second split jamb right about here. Got the second split jamb in, you can see. And these do not have to be plumb. They don't have to be plumbed this way. You don't really care. It's not going to affect anything. Although it may make it easier for the drywall guy to score a line. But it is important that they're plumbed this way. Since they're not attached, I'm just going to kick them out of alignment. See, if your door is perfectly centered between these two, it could start rubbing on that back one. So it's very important that these are all aligned. We're ready to attach the brackets that accept the wheels to the top of the door. So let's look at that. They leave this gap here so that you could take the wheels on and off. So you can put the door on and off, and you can also do repairs. So let's look at that. If that wheel goes any farther to the left, it'll fall off the track. So right there, we want the center of this thing to be 4 inches from the edge of our door.
When you attach the brackets to the top of the door, make sure these locking clips are both facing the same side of the door. Makes it easier to install.
Trucks have 3 wheels. So I'm going to have 2 wheels facing that window. 2 wheels facing the opposite way. That helps keep the door balanced. Now we're going to put the door into the pocket. Let's see. I just tilted the door up, and then I just pushed the wheel into the bracket. And now I'll do the same thing. I'll move this wheel over here, and I'll just lift this end of the door up. So I just clip that one into place. And now these lock the brackets in place, but I don't want to do that yet. This is why I did not do a final attachment of the split jambs. I want to move the door through there and just look at it. I've got about 3/8 of an inch here and 3/8 of an inch there. That's perfect alignment. You don't have to be perfect. You see down here? The door is just hanging there naturally. I've got a bigger gap here than I do here. I could just, unscrew that thing and just knock that over a little bit. Same thing here. See, I've got like a 1/2 inch there, and I have no gap there. So, it's gonna go like this. See that? Now I got about 3/8 on that side. And look at that, I've got about 3/8 on that side. With that spacing the way I want it, I can screw these in place. Okay, now those are set. We'll test the door again. Just make sure. Look at that. See how the door hits at the bottom, but it has this big gap at the top? That means the door is going this way. And what we want to do is check it against here. See? Right here, it's flush with our split jambs, but right here, it's sticking out. So we know this door is definitely going like that. So we're gonna try to straighten this up first. Well, Johnson gives you these little wrenches. I bend them, I find they're bent too much. I just hit them with a hammer and straighten them out a little bit, or I use a pair of needle nose pliers. But basically, if I loosen this thing, it's gonna lower this side. And if I tighten this thing, it's gonna raise this side. Now when I'm putting in these trim pieces, this is just 1x2. So it's 3/4 of an inch thick, 1.5 inches wide. To put it in there, there has to be enough room for the door to move in there. And you also want to bring this out so it's going to be flush with your finished drywall, because they're going to put a casing over here. So you see, got plenty of room for that door to move. You don't want it too close. And sometimes you have to rip these to size because your wall thicknesses can vary wildly. So we're just doing that, and then you could nail this in here, but sometimes the nails can get squirrely. They could shoot out to the side, go through the door or something. So when I'm doing it, I love to use these little self-tapping trim screws. You don't need to pre-drill. They're very low profile. They go in very easy. They don't split the wood. Once you do this, you can't take the door out without taking these off. So now we're going to do the same thing right here. We're going to put these trim pieces right along our split jambs, and you see the split jambs have these holes, and it can be very difficult to shoot nails into there. So that's another reason why I like to use the little trim screws. So when I want to mark these, the first thing I do is butt that up against the top, and then I mark it right there. See that? I get that? And just know that right there is where I want to put my screw, each one. But once again, you want this flush with whatever your drywall is going to be. They're using 5/8 inch. So if you're doing the drywall, if someone else is doing the drywall, remind them, use 1-inch screws. When this door is open, we want it to stay flush. We don't want it to go deep in there, because that's hard to get out and that looks terrible. So whenever you're framing this, always want to go a little bit bigger than the door, but you never want to go smaller than the door. Ideally, when the door hits the wall, you want it to be flush, or Johnson gives you this little bumper. We're going to screw this into the back of the door first and then get it set up. Just put it about halfway up the door. When that door gets flush there, it'll hit the wall. That looks like 1.5. My leftover trim pieces. Screwed that on there, so you see now with everything lined up and working perfectly, we put in these bottom guides, and that keeps the door from slapping back and forth. Now, of course, we would have some sort of pull in here, but they don't have that yet. Going to do that at a later date. See, everything is working fine. When our door closes, it lines up here. And also, we don't see a big gap here. The door, as you can see, is just behind there. You don't want to see through that. When the door opens, it's nice and flush. And everything is lined up. Looks great. It's ready for drywall. Doesn't flop around. Moves perfectly. And they've got plenty of room to put in their finished floor. That's how you do it. Pocket door install.